Under the TPP, under the investor state settlement provisions, this is the most pernicious of all of it. It's the TPP is designed to protect investors. Period. Only investors can sue. Labor cannot sue. The environment cannot sue. Consumers cannot sue. Only investors. That should tell you everything you need to know about the TPP. This is of, by, and for powerful, rich, large transnational corporations. They want to, for example, about 70% of the seafood now consumed in the United States is imported. There are these huge fish farms in Vietnam and China where the fish live in polluted water that's very often polluted with human feces. They pour antibiotics into the water so that the fish don't get sick. We get these fish. The most common one you'll see in the United States that's grown in these kind of ponds is tilapia. You can walk into a restaurant in the United States and you see tilapia on the menu. Ask them where it came from. 90% of the time or more, if your server knows anything about where it actually came from, it came from China or from South Vietnam or from Vietnam, excuse me. And we inspect about 2% of this as it comes into the United States. Under this TPP agreement, if you are the importing company and the United States says, hey, wait a minute, this fish doesn't look good. We want to run some samples. We're going to take this, we're going to swab it and take it to the lab and see if it's infected with bacteria. Under a process, sorry, I don't have the name for it, but this just blew my mind. It is the company importing the food can say that you are hindering our ability to examine these products, or you're hindering our ability to import these products. Let me see if I can find the. No, I can't. This just came out. I'm dealing with stuff that just basically fell on my desk. But they can say you're impeding our trade by inspecting food, and so we're challenging that inspection. Only investors can sue, not labor. There is no outside appeal. Once the TPP tribunals have ruled, once the corporations have ruled, that's it. If the United States passes laws that say protect our citizens from poisonous food coming in from Vietnam or China, or badly manufactured drugs, we're now discovering that many of the drugs manufactured, in fact, most of the drugs sold in the United States are not made in the United States, first of all. Vast majority. Most of them are manufactured either in China, India, or Europe. And I don't know if you saw the report last week, I think it was in the New York Times, that in China, many of the drugs, they started inspecting some of the drug factories and discovered that they were using out-of-date raw materials. They were using low-potency raw materials. They were using things that weren't even supposed to be in some of these drugs. Everything for the buck, right? And, in third world countries, you can kind of buy off the regulators. The ability of the United States to assert its national security has been removed. I think I already mentioned that. These new limits on food safety rules. There is no ban. There were many people who were saying, okay, if you're going to negotiate an international trade deal, here's one reason why you might want to have an international trade deal: to ban the trade in endangered species. All right, let's do that. Let's ban the trade in endangered. I mean, that's actually a reasonable reason to have an international trade deal where everybody says, okay, we all agree we're not going to do this. It's not in the TPP. Instead, what it says is that they will endeavor not to participate in that trade. Right. Similarly, illegal fisheries. There are illegal fisheries all over the world, and they are stripping the oceans. And a lot of the products of those fisheries end up on tables in homes and restaurants in the United States and other countries. Are we stopping that with the TPP? No. Again, it says the member countries will endeavor not to undermine regional conservation fisheries. In other words, legal fisheries. Endeavor not to undermine them. This is completely toothless. Slave labor. Slave labor and forced labor. The language of the TPP says that the sale and trade of goods manufactured with forced labor or slave labor is, quote, discouraged. You really think anybody's going to pay attention to that? One of the other areas where you think maybe we could all get together on this, on international trade, and like have some kind of consensus, is climate change. Let's have a trade deal that regulates carbon. Because, actually, as you increase trade, you increase shipping. As you increase shipping, you increase fossil fuel usage and you increase global warming. Increased trade right now means increased global warming. So shouldn't fossil fuels, shouldn't carbon, shouldn't climate change be part of this? No mention of it. The phrase climate change does not appear anywhere in the 2,000 pages of the TPP deal. This is insane. And the fact that I'm looking at the MSNBC screen and they're talking about Jeb Bush, and I'm looking at the CNN screen and it says White House briefing coming up, and I'm looking at news sites like Drudge Report at the top, potty mouth kids trash Trump. Nobody's talking about this. The fix is in. This trade deal that was negotiated by the Obama administration, the State Department, Hillary Clinton, and the trade representative, whose name I'm forgetting, was it Rob? I'll have to track it down. I'll get it when we come back. This is devastating. Just devastating.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-536-2370.
No protections for labor. There's a 5-year exemption from any protections for labor in Vietnam. The weak protections that they are, because they got the lowest rate in the world.